ACB logo, ribbon below, 60th anniversary.
Hey, I'm hearing our keynote speaker for the day, Bob Ciminera, the CEO from Vispero, from near my hometown, Clearwater, Florida. So welcome, Bob.
Thanks, Dan. Pleasure to be here.
Oh, well, we're so glad to have you. And before we get started, I want to remind everybody that if you have a question for Bob, please write in your question at questions with an S, questions@acb.org, and let Bob, let's have a few questions for Bob at the end of his remarks, or you can call Janet Dickelman and leave her a question in person on the phone, and she'll make sure to read your questions. And her phone number is 651-428-5059. So please give Janet a call or send an email at questions@acb.org. And Bob, welcome. Boy, it's great to hear your voice. I mean, so many of us, Vispero is part of our daily lives with your whole suite of products. And I know you're new to this position, and we'd love to hear some thoughts from you today. So welcome, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Dan. It's a pleasure to be here, and I appreciate you inviting me to speak at your leadership meeting. I've been here just about a month. My name is Bob Ciminera again. Thank you for the intro. I joined on February 7th as CEO, and I've really had a wonderful time so far in learning about our customers, employees, and products. And one thing, as you alluded to, Dan, I've learned in the last month is that Vispero is not the brand that you know. You'll know us by Freedom Scientific, perhaps Optelec, Advanced Vision, TPGI, but more likely even through our products like JAWS, Zoom Text, Focus, Ruby, Clearview, and the list goes on. And I have to say, I came from the tech industry. My last position was running global services for NCR Corporation. And, I was looking for something with a purpose. And this opportunity came across to me. And what compelled me to come here is really the dedication that Vispero has to empower individuals to succeed in any environment, including assistive technology for individuals who are blind or low vision, and digital accessibility and compliance services to businesses to help them better serve people with disabilities. And I'm really excited to be part of this. Dan, I want to thank you and ACB. And I had the pleasure to talk to Eric a few weeks ago after my second or third week in the role here. And I just want to thank you and the entire ACB organization for continuing the fight on behalf of the blind and low vision individuals. And I really believe it's the advocacy of ACB and the members of ACB that will ensure people who are blind and low vision can successfully go to school, work, and live productive lives. And Vispero wants to be a big part of that. And we see our relationship to ACB in twofold. I'd like to talk a little bit about this. One, as a partner, where we seek the feedback of your members on how we can create the right products and services to meet the needs of the blind and low vision, but also how we can work together with the various governmental agencies to further this agenda, to advocate for the folks who really need our solutions and really benefit from the work that ACB does and from the products and solutions that Vispero offers. So, it's really important for me as I focus in on my key priorities for the business, which number one is innovation. Number two, really providing an outstanding quality service to our customers. And number three, growth. So in our relationship with ACB, we really depend on your feedback for our software and hardware products. And we love connecting with you to really understand what works for you. And a cool example of how we do this, recently we did a community call where we demonstrated how to play the popular game Wordle using JAWS, Zoom Text, and Fusion, which I understand was a lot of fun. So as I get into this, Dan, I really am looking forward to partnering with you and Eric to, there's a lot more that I don't know than I do know. And I'm relying heavily on the 60 or so people in my organization who are blind and low vision, developing products for that community. And I'm relying on our partnership with ACB to help me navigate to developing the best quality products and services for the community, and also working with government, Washington, D.C., and the various regulations that are in play right now. I really look forward to furthering that agenda, and I think now is a real good time to do it, and I'm really impressed by the work that you've already done with your organization. So again, I want to thank you. I think I'd like to open it up, Dan, if there's any questions or any comments for
Sure,
me.
Bob.
I'm happy to entertain them.
Well, thanks for those comments, Bob. And just a couple of questions for you, because you are very new in the role. So,
yes, sure.
being a Central Floridian, is this a transition for you down to Florida in the Clearwater area?
Yeah, it is. Well, I'll tell you what happened last year. I got a phone call from my daughter-in-law. Actually, my wife got a call, and she lives in Lakeland with my son in Lakeland, Florida. My son works for Publix, and she and my wife have a fabulous relationship. And she called excited on a Saturday about a year ago, actually, and said the house next door is coming on the market. And my wife hung up the phone. And I said, "Go buy it. In this market, if it's available, there's only 2 of those houses in the planet next door to them."
And it's not very often that your kids call and want you to move in next door, is it? That's pretty cool.
That's the most surprising thing of all. So my wife hung up the phone. I said, "Go do it." But I said, before we do, let's call our son. So I called Josh, my son, and said, "Are you sure you want your mother living next door to you?" And I noticed I didn't say father. Forgive me, everybody. But he said, "Okay, yeah, I think that's good. If you guys want to do it, I think it would be great." And so we did. So we bought the house. We moved down. I moved my wife down in July. I was living in New Jersey at the time. Never thought I would leave. And so I got my Florida license plates in October when I moved down permanently. So this opportunity came along serendipitously, and I was just absolutely thrilled. So to answer your long-winded answer, Dan, I moved. I'm in Lakeland. I have a little bit of a drive to Clearwater, as you know, but I'm happy to do it, and I'm so excited to be here.
And so you haven't made it through your first Florida summer yet, with all that humidity and thunderstorms coming your way.
No, it's I didn't move down here for the weather, but I have to tell you, it's very easy to get used to. At least what I've experienced so far.
Oh, it's hard to beat winters in Florida for sure. No doubt about it. Well, can we talk a little bit, maybe before we open it for questions, about your different product lines? So like you said, Vispero, we've kind of now stayed steady for a few years, so we're used to the name. Yeah. But it is a conglomeration of different products, and you all have worked very diligently to kind of get a whole plethora of products that meet all kinds of different blind and low vision folks' needs under one umbrella. So what synergies are you seeing between the different product lines? That's probably one of your challenges as the CEO, right? I mean, how do you keep the best and unique skills that made them the leaders in the market that they are, but then how do you integrate across those product lines?
Yeah, no, it's a great question, Dan. In fact, it's on the software side, our products for, the JAWS and Zoom Text products. Mm-hmm. Stable team, been around for a while. Products that are for people who are blind, developed by people who are blind. Originally, the history of that product is stable. Our extension goes into places like McDonald's, where we recently won a contract to put JAWS on the kiosks, the self-serve kiosks in the restaurants, and McDonald's is in the process of rolling that out. So we're excited about that, and we're looking to expand that into healthcare and to even more restaurants. So we're working diligently to expand JAWS. as you may know, JAWS is Windows based, so we have to do some extensions into Android platform. One thing I didn't mention, on my personal side, is that my wife is a dog lover, and I'm going to just let my dog out for 1 second.
No problem. It's the beauty of Zoom. That's right.
Yeah. Well, my apologies, everybody. So on the software side, think about in terms of extension. We continue to release 5 or 6 point releases a year, and we have our major JAWS / Fusion release in the October timeframe every year. That will continue, and we'll continue to accept feedback. We've got a wonderful user community, and now we see an extension into Android platform, into kiosks. On the hardware side, candidly, the brands of Freedom Scientific, Enhanced Vision, Optelec are still out there, and we really haven't leveraged the design platform as much as I would like to see. And that really is an opportunity for us to take our resources and come out with more enhanced blind products. We're thinking about tablets. How do you represent graphics, for example? How do you do multi-line Braille? So these are products that we're looking at in our innovation roadmap, and I'm looking to free up investment dollars so we can concentrate our R&D on those types of products. On the low vision side, there's some opportunity there as well. And early days, I'm taking a very hard look at, should we consolidate our product line and double down on our investment into a few? How important is the brand differentiation versus what the product actually does? As you would expect, Dan, these are some of the problems I'm trying to solve. Really, how can I pinpoint our development effort to create more innovation to help people to do better in their personal lives, in their reading, in their employment, in their education, and so forth? More to come on that. Early days for me, but I'm looking to accelerate our innovation cycle. It's a big issue for me, and I'm sure you would imagine and know from everybody's experience with the pandemic related issues that has forced some issues. We've had some components that were hard to supply, and the more components we have, the more diversity of components, that just compounds the problem. So there's been some things we have to do out of necessity, but my focus is really creating solutions for our user community that will really enhance their lives. More to come on that. Early days, but a great question.
And you maybe think of a couple other things. So you've mentioned a couple of times about how important it is to get feedback and input from our community, from the blind and low vision community.
Yes, right.
So what vehicles are you thinking of putting in place there? I know as an organization, we stand ready and able and willing to help you with focus groups, with testing, with partnerships to really, hear what's working and what's not working within your product portfolio. So what are your thoughts of continuing to increase your engagement with our organization as we move forward? We're lucky in that what we have the resource of a lot of blind and low vision people that are eager to talk and meet with your product developers.
So I want to leverage the platforms you already have, whether it's the community calls or other forums, and as we start thinking further about bringing product to market, create topical agendas and working with you and your community. That's about as specific. And we have training podcasts, training webinars, and so forth. Podcast is one way, webinar is more two-way. It really is something that I need to work on and really be pointed about. Leveraging your existing platform, your community. And candidly, my understanding is that already happens, but it may not be happening at the level as much as we should be.
We do a better job of maybe formalizing it in the future. Just something to think of. Yeah.
No, that's a great offer, and I'm going to take you up on it.
Okay, good. And then you mentioned the contract that you're rolling out for the kiosks with McDonald's. And
Yes, sir.
we see this happening over and over again in our community, that, the wave of the future, and it's here to a great extent today, is things are becoming more and more automated with kiosks, whether it be in the healthcare industry, in the transportation industry. And of course, it's a challenge for our folks that we can get kind of left behind if those kiosks are not accessible. So when you have a contract like you just announced with McDonald's, that's a win for Vispero, but it's a huge win for our community too, because it provides access. I can't pry too much underneath the covers, but can you share with us any other partnerships that are in the works there with some of these large kiosks, integrated companies and partners that you're working with?
Well, I think, well, let me just say this. There's a company out there, if you go and get your blood pressure tested at a Walgreens or a place like that make medical types of kiosks. And that company's named Higgy. We're talking to them actively about making their products more accessible. We haven't signed a deal yet, but I feel comfortable enough that I can mention their name. But candidly, we this is one of the things I'm working with my team to get more traction on, because we see the need. I came from the self-serve industry. In fact, I was responsible for our self-serve product line at NCR and self-checkouts and ATMs and so forth. And I spent a great deal of time working to make our devices compliant. More work to do there. And I'm looking forward to growing that in that space. And any suggestions? I'm open.
Well, I tell you, there's a lot of kiosks in the healthcare industry, whether it be in hospitals, whether it be in labs that are, providing self-check-in for services. Yep. You're even seeing it now in medical offices. COVID, I think, helped kind of spur and exacerbate this to a new level. But I know, even at my cardiologist, you're supposed to be out in the car, and you send in your app that then allows you to go in and sign in the kiosk. And so they're trying to, reduce human interaction as much as possible. But then that means that whole chain of check-in activities need to be accessible. As one example, going to airports, they're very happy for you to check in at the self-serve kiosks to get your tickets, to select your seat. I could go on and on. As you know, coming from that industry, there's Publix. You mentioned Publix. I'd like to self-checkout at Publix. So they're on and on of the different opportunities that are out there.
It's a little different sales motion for us than we've had in the past. And fortunately, we have our digital compliance group, TPGI, which calls on, they do a business-to-business type of selling where they're calling on enterprises. So we're leveraging that. We're developing a channel there, because we have to do multiple sales calls to get the attention of the potential candidates to install this self-serve technology that has assistive capability. So at one level is going after the manufacturers who build these kiosks. Now, unfortunately, as you know, sometimes as a matter of compliance, somebody has to either sue them, or there has to be some kind of compelling event. Mm-hmm. We're trying to get ahead of that. But we're also, not only are we selling to them, but we're also going in at the enterprise level. So in the case of McDonald's, we actually engaged with McDonald's. And in fact, the last week, they just awarded us one of their partner of the year for in their inclusion space.
Well, congratulations!
Thank you. They put pressure on the manufacturer to design us in. So, similar to other technologies that Intel, for example, goes and sells to the manufacturer, and they also sell to the end user. We're developing that two-pronged strategy, and it's just a matter of staffing up the positions and and I plan on pounding some shoe leather also to make those connections as well.
Well, fantastic, Bob. And I think I'll see if maybe we've got some questions that have come through the emails or phone calls. So, Janet, do we have any questions for Bob?
Hi, Bob. And I happen to be the convention coordinator for ACB, and we always look forward to Vispero always has a session during the convention. We always look forward to that. That's always great.
Thank you.
And I'm excited. I want to figure out how to play Wordle now. We do. So I got to.
I'll have Matt Ader contact you.
All right.
Oh, when you mentioned Matt Ader, I just got to give a big shout out for Matt. He is such a valuable resource on our advisory board, and thank you for and thank Matt for all that he does for us. Thank you.
Thank you. We love it. The minute I met Matt a couple of weeks before I joined, and I said, "Boy, I'm so glad to be on Matt's team."
Yeah, he's a good guy. What's our question, Janet?
We have a question from Chris in North Carolina, and I'm not sure hopefully he wants to know what Meta-verse is and how we can use it as blind people.
Okay.
Are you familiar with Metaverse? Because
I am. I can't say that I'm going to give the most educated, because there's a lot of confusion about what Metaverse is. But basically, excuse me 1 second, please. Sorry about that. So taking artificial intelligence and virtual reality and combining those technologies to create these virtual worlds, whether it be virtual real estate that you can buy and sell. There's some element of digital currency in the backdrop of that. Naturally, that's a future. You had companies like Facebook rename themselves to Meta. And it really is sort of a solution that seems to have a lot of problems you can solve. And there's a lot more hype about it than reality at this point. However, we know that those kinds of virtual enablements, we just talked about some very basic ones, are going to become increasingly important. And one of our concerns is, obviously, and I'm sure the background behind the question potentially could be, well, if you are blind or low vision and you have a metaverse that primarily requires vision to operate in that, how do we bridge that gap? Mm-hmm. So I've asked my digital compliance folks on a TPGI really to look into, as we're working to make consumers websites compliant with enterprises, making improving the ability to access those, as well as mobile devices. How do we look forward into that augmented reality, virtual reality space, so that people who are blind and low vision can participate in that? But really, the simplest answer I can give about the metaverse, is it an immersive experience? People have a tendency to think about you're wearing an ocular headset to engage in that experience. But I believe it goes beyond that, and it'll become a further extension of the World Wide Web as we know it, and it'll become more personalized. More to come on that, and I'm gonna work on the answer to that question. That's that, but it is a very important one.
Well, thank you, Bob. Before our next question, what's your dog's name?
Okay, I am embarrassed to tell you that my wife is a dog lover, and we have 6 dogs.
6 dogs. Yeah. Holy cow. Well, you might not have time to name all of them.
I know. I was going to say, how much time do you have? I got Luna, Jessie, Pongo, Mila, Lexi, and Roxy.
Well, I got to tell you, in ACB, you have a lot of dog lovers, because guide dogs are our friend, including Janet Dickelman, our question reader. So, Janet, what's our next question?
Fortunately, my guide dog is being quiet, laying under my desk on my feet. But our pet dog is downstairs barking his little head off. Unfortunately, he's out of your earshot, out of my microphone's earshot.
Thank you for your understanding.
Michael had a question about accessibility in kiosks, basically, and it was a lengthy question, so I'm going to try to paraphrase it. Okay. He says that he notices that, because of funding, things like free shareware are becoming more immersed in accessibility versus screen readers such as JAWS. And at what point do you think that accessibility will be universal? And do you feel that at some point your product will not be used for things like kiosks? I hope that isn't the case.
That's a great question. I mean, you have to believe that people who are investing in our company ask me that question. And the key differentiator between just flipping on narrator or some other using some kind of freeware, the difference for the product between those that shareware and freeware is that, and between that and Vispero, is that our products are built for purpose. And so if you want to navigate through a Windows experience, you want to use Google Suite and so forth, we have people who are blind developing specific use cases for that. So the freeware out there requires a little more sophistication. It's good. It's not bad. I'm not going to knock it at all. And the fact that it's free does encourage some level of ubiquity, which is awesome. I mean, ultimately, we want to see this go everywhere it's needed. And we happen to have a business that's based on that. But really, our mission is to empower individuals. So we think there's going to be a market there for a good long time for these built-for-purpose solutions. And that requires investment because many consumers don't want to spend the time thinking about how do I configure, program, activate a feature so that it works for me in my situation, whether it's education, employment, at home. And that really is the foundation of our business model.
Very good. Janet?
I have another kind along the same lines, but this is more about product. And he's talking about the cost of tech and how do you leverage as a CEO, how do you leverage your expenses with the customer costs?
So, the question that Dan asked earlier, what are you doing to consolidate product lines? So there's a basic tenet. If you buy more stuff from a store or a vendor, you're sort of automatically entitled to a lower price. So one of the things I'm working on is how can I consolidate our spend so I can use it more effectively to get better costs? And if I can get better cost, I have a couple choices. I can provide more features or I can pass along the savings to the consumer. And so the simple answer to the question is we're trying to make ourselves look bigger by not fragmenting our spend so that we can develop more features faster. That's our mantra right now, and early days, key focus area for me.
Bob, before we go back to Janet's next question, I want to again ask you a personal question. Here you are in Lakeland, and your office is in Clearwater.
Yes,
you move from New Jersey, which is depending on whether it's North Jersey or South Jersey. There's a lot of baseball teams in that area. You got the Phillies and you got the Mets and the Yankees, and Clearwater is the spring training headquarters for the Phillies. Are you a baseball fan?
I'm kind of a fair weather. I'm a New York sports fan because I live 20 miles from New York City, so I see that there's a lot of spring training around here. So and I always the Devil Rays were always a big competitor for the Yankees. So and I don't even think they call themselves the Devil Rays anymore. That shows you how antiquated I am.
They're just the Rays these days.
Rays,
they lost the Devil. Yeah.
Yeah, you can see how I feel about them, obviously. But I kept that in there somehow. Anyway, I'm looking forward. In fact, my grandson plays Little League. I'm going to go see a Rays game in April, God willing, if there is a baseball season at that time.
I believe there will be. They announced a new contract, and they're going to start April 7th, and spring training starts Thursday. So there you go. Yeah.
Sounds like you're a fan, Dan.
You could tell, huh?
Yes, sir.
Janet, what's our next question?
Peter wants to know about if there's any effort to standardize the keystrokes that are used to input data on kiosks.
I'm going to have, something, that's a question. I don't know if I can answer that question. I'm going to have to come back with some kind of a written response to you.
Okay. And Clark wants to know if Vispero can fix the MCD softserve machines. I think that's a tongue-in-cheek question.
The McDonald's softserve machines.
He wants to know if you can fix the McDonald's
kiosks for ordering. I don't know if you're aware of that, Bob, is a blind person, but you now go to the dispensers at McDonald's and it's all touchscreen. And there's, I don't know, 10, 15 flavors to choose from and all that. And, you can even make a suicide like the old days if you wanted to. But you gotta be able to touch the screen in order to, self-serve, fill up your soft drink. So I think he's saying, is your McDonald's contract not only going for the ordering kiosks, but also for the soft drink machines?
You know what? That's a phenomenal question. I noticed today, when I got the announcement from Matt that we had won this award from McDonald's, they have a vendor forum. And I looked at the list, and you have to sign up for it. It's a small membership fee. It's a no-brainer. But I looked, Coca-Cola, one of the vendors. And my first question to Matt was, let's go meet with Coca-Cola. It goes back to your question. Mm-hmm. How do we expand our reach out there? What can we do? Can we do something on that kiosk with our technology to make it more accessible? I'm going to put that, you just caused me to double down on a Coca-Cola thought. Big question.
Very good.
All right. That's all the questions I have for the moment, Bob and Dan. If I do get any additional questions, I will be happy I can get your contact information from Dan or Eric and forward the emails on or forward them on to Matt or whatever you'd like me to do.
Okay. Well, Matt and I will get back to you. We'll reach out to you. And Dan, I have a question for you. What's your favorite baseball team?
Well, it's actually the Tampa Bay Rays. Growing up in the South, I was an Atlanta Braves fan, and then baseball came a little closer to me, and with Tampa Bay. So living in Orlando, we go over a couple of times a year. Boy, I wish they'd build a new stadium, but the Trop. It is what it is, but you got to admit, for a payroll, for a team in a small market with a small payroll, it warms my heart to see that the Rays can stand toe-to-toe with both the Yankees and the Red Sox year in and year out.
Yeah, I could see myself. I switched to the Buccaneers. I think I could switch over to the Rays very easily. So, thank you for sharing that. And Dan, if there's nothing else for me, I'm happy to stay on. But I do want to say thank you. What a great group you are, everybody on the call and everybody you represent. And I'm just so fortunate to have the privilege of working with you all. So thank you for this opportunity today. And I'm looking forward to more to come.
Thank you, Bob. Thanks for spending some time with us on a Saturday, and say hello to all the dogs and the wife. And it was wonderful to get to know you. Thanks, Bob.
They say hello back. Take care.
All right. Bye-bye. All right. That was so nice to get to meet the new Chief Executive Officer, CEO of Vispero. And Bob seems like a gentleman who's really ready to reach out and work with our community and with ACB. And we look forward to developing and continuing to develop a very strong relationship with Vispero.